Hey, I'm Loren Norris with StoryPower TV, and today we are actually going to talk about a book I have not yet read. I don't do that often, but sometimes I do. Today we're going to sit with someone who is a former naval officer, gone children's book author. Yeah, you're going to want to hear this one. Stay tuned.
And like you said, I think sometimes the most important thing is instilling in a kid that they have their parents' support and they know that when they fail, that they're not going to get it twice at home, right? Because you're already going to be dealing with failure, which is arguably, or like some people use a different word. I don't have a negative connotation with failure. You know, for me, it's like you try something.
It's a foundation.
There it is, right? Something like that. Because if you've never, the biggest failure is never trying, right? And when you try and fail, you've learned something to try again. You know, and once you stop trying is the ultimate failure, and that's.
Okay, so I'm going to pick your brain on this one because I use all the time. Thomas Edison said, I didn't find 10,000 ways to fail at making a light bulb.
Yeah.
I found 10,000 other things that are not a light bulb.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty complicated way to say it, and you still have to break that down even working with adults in communication and leadership.
Right.
How would you say that to your daughter?
Well, I guess, I mean, that is kind of like the, I mean, I guess the thing that I've always said is that you don't stop trying, right? Is really, it's like you're going to try and you're going to fail, and then you just learn from it, and then you try again. And I was like, the only time, but it's like there's probably going to be a better way that would take some thought crafting. But it's, I don't know, one thing I just say to her, just because I was like, I don't know, I never grew up with a, some people have a family code, right? Like, Johnsons don't do this, or like, you know, and so I tried to just be like, Girardis don't quit. Like, that's it, right? We just don't quit. And it's funny because she's called me on it before with it, which is great. That means it's sinking in, right? You know, there was a time, so I was going to, so I go to Stonewater here in town, and I was going to the church group Regen, and in that, you go every Monday. And you have this book, and you're supposed to write stuff down and come in with something to bring. And I didn't get to the book that week. And so she comes with me because they have kids service at night. So she'll go there for 2 hours while I do my group. And one time I didn't have stuff. And they always say, just keep coming. But I was like embarrassed, you know. So I was like, we're not. And she goes, why aren't we going tonight? And I was like, because I didn't fill out my book and blah, blah. Like, I'm just probably not going to go. And she goes, Dad, Girardis always see things through. All right, get your coat, let's go. You know, I was like, fine, you know.
You're going to hold me accountable.
Right. Well, and I love that. You know, like, I think you know, I tried to, that's like one of those moments, right? Where if she called me on that, then I was like, oh yeah, but that's for you, not for me. Then it's like, okay, it means nothing, right? Like, I had to sit there and be.
Because that's the character, that's the integrity.
Right. So for me, it was really important to be like, all right, fine, get your coat, let's go, you're right, you know. But now when I use it on her, she's like, dang, you know, because she said it to me, and I remember you told me, Girardis don't quit, we see the stuff through. So
my youngest son married into a family, so he got married, and she already has a 3-year-old. Then they had the little special needs guy together. She was, before we met her, single mom, working 15, 16 hours a day, welding inside tubes. She's a little somebody, but
wow.
I mean, just hard working. She's raised livestock all of her life. Just, I mean, salt of the earth kind of people.
Yeah.
The other night he came home from work. He gets off at 10:30. He gets home about midnight. And you're like, would you get stuck in traffic driving across Granbury? I mean, that's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And she is really upset with him because it's time to put the baby down and he needs medicine and all this kind of stuff. And she's just, you know, yelling at him. They go to their room and he comes back out and I'm like, so what took you 90 minutes to get home? He said, I was doing what you've always taught me to do. I said, what's that? He said, somebody pulled up in the parking lot after we closed the parts store. I was about to get in the car and they were having a real problem keeping their headlights on. And so I took a look at it, and I was able to fix it right there in the parking lot.
That's awesome.
It was just rewiring their negative ground cable. And I'm like, and that took 90 minutes. He said, at least 90 minutes. I mean, I was working as fast as I could. He said, but I wasn't going to leave that mom and her kids stranded on the side of the road with no battery after the parts store closed.
Yeah.
And I thought, I tell a leadership story constantly about interviewing for a job, and I was 15 minutes late for the interview because I stopped on the side of the road to help somebody else, because I would have rather lost the job than leave that person stranded. If you can help, you should.
Yes.
And so that's one of the principles that we've always taught our kids. My boys were probably 7 and 9, and we would see somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire.
Yeah.
We'd pull over, and I would tell them, we can help you. They're like, oh, I've already called AAA. And I said, I'll make you a bet that those 2 boys under the age of 10 can have your tire changed before you can get AAA on the phone to cancel the call. And we did that on many, many occasions.
That's awesome.
Change flat tires,
so cool.
Help people out, pull them out of ditches and all that kind of stuff. And so my kids have always been taught that way. My boys have always been told, you open the door for a female. I don't care if she's older, younger, if you like her, you don't like her, you don't know her, she's rude to you. You still open the door for a female. That's courtesy.
Right.
And I remember the 2 girls having a conversation one time, not my daughters, but the 2 that the boys were dating, and they're like, do you ever touch a door handle? And they're like, no, that is so weird. These guys are always opening the doors. I can get in the car on my own. I don't need your help. And I walked in the room. I'm like, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard what you said. And the minute he doesn't open your door, you tell me. And the minute you stop letting him, you and I have a problem.
Yeah.
And they're like, what does that mean? I said, because you've allowed him to disrespect you. And I have no tolerance for that. Okay, that's easy enough to teach at 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that here.
Yeah.
Right, we've got a 3-year-old grandson that was with us this weekend. At one point, he's picking up acorns. I'm like, what are you going to do with those?
Yeah.
I didn't even say it. He picks up all the acorns, gets in his car seat, drops them in the... Now, half the time my wife and I look at each other like, what did he say? I don't know what he said. And when we ask him 2 or 3 times to say it again, you have no idea what he's talking about, right? I mean, he says words, but nobody knows what they are. But she's sitting beside him, and he's got the little acorns in there, and he goes, the squirrels are going to love these.
Oh.
And you're like, again, with the help me open my sippy cup, and yet you've got the ability to think forward enough that I'm going to gather acorns now so I can feed them to the squirrels later.
That's amazing.
At 3.
Yeah.
Where does this come from? Right? And
well, he must have, I mean, his parents are obviously empathetic people.
Apparently.
Or at least have emotional capacity for empathy, but that's amazing. You know what I mean? Those are, I think where it's, for me, it's like the idea of like a guy or a young man or a boy or whoever opening a door for a woman is a great lesson. And I think though, for kids, it has to be less specific.
Okay.
In my opinion, right? Like, I think that's a great one. I think it's a great concept, but I think it's that maybe the idea of showing respect first. Right, because I still think that one of the biggest tragedies is that like kids nowadays don't also seem to just respect elders. You know what I mean? Like the whole respect your elders or themselves or anyone, their peers, right? Yeah, or peers or anything, right? It's just a general lack of respect.
I would have never pondered the idea of throwing a milkshake at a law enforcement officer with a sidearm.
No. Or, I mean, just those games where like kids were filming YouTube videos running up to knock people out and they killed an old guy because they wanted to get it on YouTube.
Yeah, and then they met a Golden Gloves boxer. Did you see that video?
No, I didn't see
that was hilarious.
One.
Like 5 of them attacked this guy on the streets in Boston. One guy just runs up and smacks him, and he turns and looks at him like, what was that all about? And then another one tries to blindside him from the other side. 2 or 3 of them hit him, and he just laid them all out, 1-punch knockouts on all of them. And then he turns to the guy with the camera. He's like, next time you do that, don't pick on a Golden Gloves boxer.
That's awesome.
He was a Marine Corps boxer.
That's awesome. Yeah, tough as nails, I mean, but it's like, I think.
FAFO.
Right, yeah, exactly, FAFO, but it's, I think that, I don't know, I think respect in general is where you start around this age, and then you get into more specific instances about like, opening a door, like a man opening a door for a woman is a respect thing, right? And I think that's where, I think what's been hard for a lot of young men right now, is because I know that society tends to shift, or like take big swings, right? And then overcorrect, and then you correct again, right? And I think that, we went through that whole time where, because I remember that when I first met my wife, I had gotten to the point, right, I was living out in California. I had met my wife, and she's like, what, do you not open doors? I was like, well, most of the time the girls get like upset if I open it. And so it's like, where was
she raised?
Texas. Yeah. And so,
it seems like a down.
And what's funny is I would open doors, but then people are like, oh, don't do that. I can do it myself. Like, it's the whole reverse momentum of like,
chivalry's not dead. You strangled it.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like, it stopped being seen as a sign of respect, or it's like, also the whole, like as a way to keep, I don't know, someone down. It's like taken as a perspective, as patronizing, right? Yeah. And it should be seen as respectful because that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
But it's one of those where it's like, I feel for young men nowadays who are being told one thing and like, or what like women will say one thing about what they want, but then sometimes also there's like the respectful side, which comes from older culture.
It's also that individual thing, right? I mean, so Molly May, for an example. Molly May has a relationship with Dad. Dad's the perfect example of what it means to be loved. Dad's the perfect example of what it means to be respected. Dad's the perfect example of treating her like a princess. But then there's a sibling, or there's that kid at school, or there's that one down the street. And so she has a set of expectations, but nobody else seems to honor them or live up to them.
Right.
And so it's almost that place where it's like, so my dad is the one that loves me like this, and everybody else has a different way. That's hard.
Yeah.
But then there's also, and we watch it, especially with kids 5, 6, 7 years old, they so respond to the peer pressure that you watch a kid that by themselves, they're conscientious, they're collecting acorns for the squirrels. Later, they're doing all these things, and then you put them in. Same little guy that's collecting squirrels. We go to the mall where there's these big styrofoam building blocks, and everybody's building all kinds of stuff. And he's helping, he's collecting, he's bringing them to them. And then about 15 other kids show up, and they range in age from 2, just younger than him, to 12, 14 years old.
Yeah.
And the 14-year-olds are carrying the bricks around, smacking each other with them, because that's what 14-year-old boys do.
Right.
And I'm just watching him from a distance. And there's 5 different races all hanging out together. They're playing, they're having a good time. Nobody's having an issue until 2 of the siblings start arguing with each other.
Yeah.
And I look up a moment later, and my little guy, who's always kind and conscientious, is following him around every time somebody builds something. He just knocks it over and walks off. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen that in him, but he was just being mean.
Right.
I'm like,
it's just sponges. They see something, and it's
and
like,
that's what they want to imitate it.
Yeah.
And they do it just like that. And so the challenge we have, I think, sometimes in setting that standard or expectation, and I had it for my girls. In fact, I think one of the biggest fights I ever had with my daughter, my youngest one, was the guy that she's now married to. Has been married almost 10 years. They have 6 sons together. And I said, why did you pick this guy? And she just stared me down, and she pulled out this list. She said, you remember when I was 14 and you made me write a list of the perfect man? I said, yeah. She said, he's 90%.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like,
that's an A.
Okay, then I guess he passed. And she said, and he's more like you than you can imagine. And I'm like, okay. So, 10 years in now, we have a different relationship. She and I do, he and I do.
Yeah.
And it's that I've handed over my baby girl to this guy that better provide for her, better protect for her, better treat her with the same level of respect. But I have to admit, he used to travel with the power team.
Yeah.
When we met, he could bench press 600 pounds. He was a law enforcement officer at the time, now runs a roofing company. He's no small guy.
Yeah.
Most people are intimidated by him. He's intimidated by her. She's a bully.
Yeah.
Right? Why? Because we taught her to be independent, to have high expectations, to have standards.
Right.
And I tell him all the time, I'm like, I didn't spoil her like that. He said, no, you just trained her to be spoiled.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you're the one spoiling her.
But
So
I think
that's on you.
I think that's the super important. I think you touched on a super important note there, where you teach that it's okay to accept help from a man who wants to help, and in a respectful way. But you also teach them not to need it, right? You be independent, you be strong, you be able to take care of yourself, all these things, but also know that it's okay to have someone else who wants to give to you, provide to you, take care of you, show you respect. It doesn't mean that you're any less powerful, strong, capable. It just means that you are open to having, or open to the fact that they can be respectful to you in that way. And I think that's the important thing, right? Where you want them to be strong, independent, smart, hardworking, driven, like all these
You should
qualities.
be capable of being self-sufficient, but also be willing to be provided for.
Right. Because the last thing you want is them to feel like all they can be is provided for, so then they stick around, so then they're in a situation where they're only there because they're being taken care of.
Oh, and that tension right now, it's both in our relationship with Christ and in our society, that it is a train wreck, and that tension is between self-sufficiency and submission.
Right.
And submission has been traded for entitlement.
Yes.
And so we're either self-sufficient, we're so independent that you can't tell me nothing.
Yeah.
Or we're so entitled, not submitted, but entitled that you better tell me, and you better give me, and you better provide for me. And we were watching a cop video just last night, my wife and I were, and the lady's sitting at the bar with a $66 tab. Literally, the cops are like, honey, you need to pay your tab and leave or you're going to get trespassed. And she's looking at random guys going, you want to pay my tab? I'll follow you back to your room. You're like, what is wrong with society that we've gotten to this place? I mean, obviously what she's offering, inferring, implying is the last thing you want, right? But who takes up that offer? I mean, what kind of self-respecting anybody takes up that offer?
Right.
That's a flaw in our society.
Yeah.
But it starts with 5 and 6-year-old little girls. How do we build that shelter around them that they know what that boundary looks like?
Right.
I mean, if he's going to start yelling at her and cussing at her and throwing things at her and getting drunk and losing control, don't leave 3 years later.
Yeah.
Leave a while ago.
Right.
I mean, you're still here?
Well, and like you said, where's that foundation set, right? Because I guarantee that if a woman is accepting of that later in life, it's because it's what she received from her father, who set the standard of, well, that's okay.
Disappeared and never set a standard.
Right, or never set a standard, right? And so they're like, well, this is what, well, he didn't leave me, like, or he didn't hit me, so it doesn't make it acceptable, but they got a standard from a young age because of what was set, at least in my experience and my take on it. I can't cite any scientific resources on this, but
I can tell you some of my own research study is I often show up places, I do it with my wife in tow 99% of the time for a reason. But we'll go someplace to a wedding or out for dinner, and if we have a server, I very often ask, so what are you going to school for?
Yeah.
The amount of time that just asking a question that shows concern for something other than their body, their social status, or whether or not they're willing to party with you.
Yeah.
Melts them.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, you obviously don't want anything. You're married, and I mean, why do you care? They never ask that question, but you can see that puzzle on their face going, why are you asking me that?
Yeah.
But very seldom do I get a no answer, or do I get a rude answer.
Right.
What often happens is they want to deeply get engaged in a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's because early on, nobody had that conversation with them.
Yeah.
It went around as a motivational speech for a while. Probably happened 2015 or 16 at the Dallas Convention Center, the national TEA, the Teachers Teaching and Education Association, or Teachers, whatever it is, their union, their big union, had their big annual gathering at the Dallas Convention Center, 12, 15,000 people there. And they brought a little guy up who had told his teacher he wanted to go into education. And so they brought him up on the stage, young guy, African-American, probably 9, 10 years old. And they handed him the mic, and they're like, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And they really expected him to go, well, I'm going to be a teacher just like all of you, so the whole crowd could explode. And when they asked him the question, he was like ready to answer the question, and he stopped and he put the mic down, but you could still hear him, and he leaned in, he goes, is it okay if I just want to be happy?
Oh.
I'm like, dude, you just changed the world right there.
Right.
Because what if you ask a 9-year-old and they don't have a career plan?
Yeah.
I mean, did you have this plan when you were on active duty?
No.
Or in high school or in college?
Right.
I mean, nobody plans that kind of stuff out. And yet we look at our kids and we want to put that demand on them. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
I don't know. Michael Jr. He said, I asked my son, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, a doctor or a dinosaur. You're like, well, I mean, I guess they could both be possible.
Yeah,
but how many parents would stop right there and start trying to prepare them for the education, or help them with the realism that you can't be a dinosaur?
Yeah.
And so we lose the imagination, which, according to Myron Golden, is the highest paying of all work platforms in the world.
The imagination.
The imagination.
Yeah, makes sense.
You can work, you can manage. So laborer, manager, communicator, imagination, visionaries.
Yeah.
And he said, if you work in labor, 80,000 is kind of the top income you'll ever make.
Well, and 90% of, I feel like, being a leader is being able to have a vision, right? If you can't see or visualize the way something should be or correct, you're like, if you don't see a destination and what that looks like to get there, which is all imagination, then how are you going to inspire people to see that vision also and to work willingly?
And then you've got to be able to transfer that vision through communication. You've got to be able to transfer that vision that you see, the picture that could be, to them
Yeah.
through a communication level that they understand. And that's a lot of what we focus on in the StoryPower Academy. I have people that come in and they're like, I just want to tell my story. I'm like, who wants to hear it?
Right.
Well, everybody should hear it. What good is it going to do for them when they hear it?
What's in it for them?
Yeah. What do they gain?
Right.
How does their life get better?
Yeah.
And that gap between I had a traumatic event and the vision that I have for my client
Right.
is missing.
Yeah.
And yet that's exactly the same thread of what we have to do for our kids.
Absolutely.
We have to be able to communicate that 3-year-old level, that 5-year-old level, that, if you can tell me anytime you have to go to the potty, we can stop wearing diapers.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means we can stay at the playground longer, which means we could go see a movie.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to jump and run to the bathroom, or, you sit there in a wet diaper.
Right.
So there's a reason that we get through this process, and it's not just because it's the age range.
Yeah.
There's a right time for this. There's a right season. There are rewards on the other side of this.
Right.
We realize that in business. Sell enough, we'll pay you a commission.
Yeah.
Accomplish these things, we'll give you a raise. We forget that those visionary incentives are necessary for our kids.
Absolutely. Right. Like, I mean, and just like with that 9-year-old where he said, all I want to be is happy. I mean, that's honestly a vision that they don't necessarily need to know what that looks like to get there. Right. But it's like, how do you translate these ideas of like, you making a vision, but you have to be able to transmit that picture, like you said, right? You have to be able to tell them like what happy looks like, or at least the bare minimum of what it seems like to be a successful, well-functioning adult.
What happy looks like.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, what is happy to you? I remember landing in Honduras. I was 20, maybe 21 years old. Flew into the CH-47, landed. There were like 40 kids running at us, white shirts and blue jeans, and I was like, we are 3 miles from the El Salvadoran border. Are those soldiers? Because you couldn't tell as they were running at us. You're like, oh my gosh. But when they get close enough that you can hear them, they're all yelling chocolate. That's all they want from the American Air Force is chocolate. And so we get off the plane, we're getting them all the chocolate, or the helicopter, we're getting all the chocolate we've got. And then as we walk to this place where we're going to do this civil engineering project, I see these kids playing soccer, and they kick the ball and fly through the air and hit the ground, and no bounce. It just splatted. That ball had no air in it at all. So I went to town to pick up lunch and stuff, and as we come back, I found a ball that cost me 6 lempira. That's less than 10 cents. And so I brought the ball, and we pulled up. I climbed out of the cut feet, and I threw it at them. And they started chasing that ball. I got no less than 40 hugs that day.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I went home to my siblings with a ball, it'd be like, where's my Xbox?
Right, right.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But that's not a gift.
Yeah.
And it's that level of gratitude, right? So what is happy to you? Is it a yacht?
Yeah.
Is it a double wide trailer? Is it a roof over my head tonight? I mean, any place that I can sleep. I was listening to a multimillionaire that was on she has 6 tracks of income. None of them make less than $1 million. Some of them $350,000 to $400,000 per month.
Right.
And so it was like almost $3 million a year. She said there was a season that I was staying in a hotel, and I came out of the hotel and there was a lady under the bridge with a tarp. And I thought to myself, thank you, God, that I have a hotel tonight.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what we're missing.
Is the gratitude.
That's the gap between the entitlement and the self-sufficiency.
Right.
Is the ability to say, I couldn't have done this without some kind of help.
Yeah.
Whether it's mom and dad, or it's school, or it's divine intervention, whatever it is.
Right. Well, and they say that expectation it robs happiness, right?
Yeah.
It's the death of gratitude, because if you're sitting there expecting something, then why would you ever be thankful for it?
Yeah.
You should already have had it.
I thought I had a right to it.
Yeah, I mean, it should be mine anyway. So when you don't have it, then you're just upset, right? As opposed to being grateful for anything that you get that wouldn't be something that you would already have, right? Like any sort of gesture should be, I don't know, for me, it's great gratitude just for the thought, right? Just like you said, for the intention of the gift. Even if someone's just thinking about me and they got me something, maybe I didn't need it, but it's like, oh, they thought about me. And that's the important thing, right? Is that someone cares enough about you that they saw this thing, thought about you, and then they decide, I'm going to get it and give it to them because I care about that person.
And I think that thoughtfulness is another thing that our society is losing quickly. I mean, you see kids in childcare, and of course we only see the horror stories, right? But we see the child care provider smacking the kids in the head, beating them because they won't take a nap, locking them in closets, taping them to the floor, and you're like, we entrusted you with the most precious thing in our lives.
Right.
And why would you get a job in a field like that if you despise your customer?
Right.
Why would you do that? And yet, it's almost as if, like you said, it's that vicious cycle.
Yeah.
I'm mad, and so I'm taking it out on you, and you don't know how to react. So you react with anger, and so it just goes on and on and on. But if that's your MO, then you probably should have chosen another line of work.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I've thought about this a lot before, where it's like, how do you wind up there? Is it because you didn't think you had any other choices, right? Like we talked about being able to manifest what you believe you are like worth or capable of, right? Like, did you accept what you fell to, or did you pursue it because it was financially viable? Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with what you actually care about or like, but you're like, oh, you make a lot of money being an RN, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're going to have great bedside manner when they realize being an RN isn't just doing some work and then you have a lot of things that go into it, right? 90% of any job that looks great or like has great action moments is pretty much administrative suck, right?
One of the girls that we were raising for a season, she went to medical school, got her CNA, and was working on the next level. And she called us one day and she's like, I quit. And we're like, okay, it'll be better tomorrow. And she's like, no, I quit. I had to change a bedpan today. I'm never doing that again. And you're like, so how much did you just waste on school?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually she passed to cancer, so we never saw the end of that journey. But that season that she invested so much in medical school for profit,
right?
For paycheck.
Because doctors make a lot of money.
And didn't think about what the details, the daily part of like you said, the daily suck of the job.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do the part that has to be done.
Right.
You just started, so guess who gets to do that?
Well, and that's what I thought about too. With you see a lot of these like military movies,
yeah,
right? And you see all these great action moments, right? They're kicking down doors, they're going in guns blazing, they're like on the ship, shooting things, launching missiles. They don't realize like that the year and a half before that was literally practice mission, inventory, like.
And there's someone whose job it is to clean the latrine.
There is someone's job. Yeah, we call them hole technicians. Unfortunately, that's what that was their unfortunate gig,
And now they own the plumbing company next door, and the septic company down here, and the asphalt company at the end down there. And most of them learned that in the military, and now they're banking.
Yeah, I mean, you grow where you're planted, right?
Yeah.
If you have the right set of skills, like even myself, kind of like you said, when I was enlisted, I could have gone my route, right? They have something called AMDO. Aerospace Maintenance Duty Officer, which would have been in line with my career. But I decided I wanted to try to do something more Navy-oriented and went Surface Warfare Officer, right? So that was like, went from the air side to the sea side, completely different field. I started this for a reason.
Foundation,
grow where you're planted. Oh, so I thank you. I tried to get out of calibration, when I was feeling bored, stuck. I was like, 10 years of cal, same stuff. Like, I want to go do something more. I want to action-oriented, have some fun. Then I got out of the Navy, and I was like,
engineering too, right?
Yeah, it has a lot of engineering, electrical engineering, a lot of physical, mechanical, pressure, all that stuff, right? But I remember I got out to go do something more fun. And then I got out of the Navy. I was like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm back in calibration, right? Because they give you this set of skills, and you just know it so well.
Yeah.
And so it's just sometimes the skills you have lead to the passion, right?
So how would you teach calibration to her?
That's a good question. I mean, the way I kind of talk about it with other people who don't know what it is might be a good way, would be how do you know that a ruler is 12 inches, right? Like it says it's 12 inches. So you would get something that is for sure 12 inches.
When you know it's not.
Right, exactly, right? It's like there's measurement is in everything, and
right.
It's so like calibration is also called metrology or measurement science, and so the whole idea is that there's always something greater. Like they have the kilogram, right? Like there's like the thing that is the kilogram.
Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah, Greenwich Mean Time, right? Everything has a source back to zero, or as close to it as we can possibly get with our tools.
Right.
And then you have your things that you can measure with it, but I mean, if you're going to teach to a kid, I mean, I think it's like the concept would just be trying to show them like I don't know, I guess just how to measure things, which it would probably be a very boring kid's book. But
no, actually, I think if you said, for an example, I mean, because we all did the kids illustration thing where you have 4 cups and then you have a quart or a pint and a gallon, and you got to figure out how many of these go in there. I love the little Facebook memes, like the cute little blonde who's trying to put a suitcase in the overhead luggage thing. And there's a guy sitting in the seat holding one of those balls with the triangles and the cubes and the rectangles. And you're like, have you ever seen one of these? Obviously, you do not get this concept.
Yeah, this is not settled in. But yeah, I mean, that's probably what it would be. I mean, there's also fun ways to teach electricity to kids, right? Like using like hoses or something like resistance.
So voltage, I went to school for electronics engineering.
So yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't need to say it to you.
I studied for a little over a year, and then I had an emotional moment, broke up with my girlfriend the day of my final exam, and went from a 3.82 GPA to a 1.69, and quit and joined the military.
There you go.
My lab partner went on to work for Martin Marietta, and he was part of the original design team of the Patriot missile.
Wow. Well, see, and those are those, I always like to, I refer to it as something, you know, do you ever have those things that you just kind of know colloquially, but you're sure there's an actual term for it?
Mm-hmm.
So I always call it the 10-year lens, right? Where you can look back at something that happened that was terrible at the time, but realize that you wouldn't be where you were if you didn't have all those experiences, right? Where it's, you know, because I similarly joined the military for, you know, like it wasn't like I was just ripe with options and I was like, you know what, forget all that, I'm going. Right? I was like, yeah, I was like.
Okay, so let me back up. 6 months? No, 1 year. 1 year. I graduated from high school, and I had offers for scholarship for music, physics, and speech.
Yeah.
But I would have had to drive too far from home.
Right.
I would have had to go from Lampasas. I don't know where, you know where that's at.
No.
If you go to San Antonio from here and you go down the countryway through 281, there's a little town that you'll blink, you miss it. It's called Lampasas. Okay. That was my hometown.
Oh, okay.
Central Texas. It is 3.5 hours from Denton.
Oh, yeah.
1 hour from Austin.
Oh, that's not too bad.
And so I went to school in Austin so that I could keep my high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
So I went to school for electronics to go into robotics instead of taking the scholarship for music, physics, and speech at UNT. So I've been a very long route, lost the girl, forgot the robotics, went into the fire department in the Air Force, and then came back, and where am I at? We lived in Justin, Texas, less than 20 minutes from UNT for almost 10 years.
Wow. And there you are right there.
For music, physics, and speech, which is now my career.
That's so funny to see.
I don't do music.
But you know, how many skills did you get for the long road that you're able to appreciate that where you're at now, right? And that's the whole like.
And it's all about learning that gratitude and appreciation. I have a client who has fired me 4 times and keeps hiring me back. In May of last year, I spoke at her annual banquet, and the message that I felt like was supposed to be, and it was just a keynote for the banquet, was the attitude of gratitude.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, we have come to a place in our society where entitlement drives the day. And if we could just do what our parents always taught us to do, what do you say? Thank you. And so by the time we're done, I had brought that phrase up like 8 times. And at the very end, I'm like, so what do you say? Thank you. That was the end of the speech.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I set them up that way the whole time. But recently I did a podcast right here, one of the morning podcasts. I said, what if we just compared if you to thank you?
Yeah.
If you didn't cut me off in traffic, if you didn't make me the wrong cup of coffee, if you didn't show up late for work, if you, because that's the blame game. That's the shifting of responsibility. That's not looking what I could have done differently, but only blaming you for what you could have done differently.
Right.
So instead of if you, what if we said thank you?
Yeah.
Even when it's a mistake.
Right.
Thank you with the true intent to be appreciative, even if they gave their best and their best wasn't good enough.
Right.
But to be grateful that they tried.
Right.
To be grateful that they cared enough. Thank you for that gift. I didn't need 1 sock. I mean, I usually wear 2 at a time, but thank you for the one sock.
Thank you for the 1 sock.
I will find a way to use that, right? I have a son-in-law who only has 1 leg, so we joke about
No, there you go. Well, there you go. That's great.
Like,
every pack is double the sock. Yeah.
So it is a path of saying, how do I find gratitude for the worst?
Right. What?
And
sorry.
No,
something that, well, so it's funny because I try to remain in that spirit of gratitude, right? But what's funny is sometimes you need help, because it's not, and obviously prayer helps me a lot.
Yeah.
But there's also a cool story, and this guy put it out under have you heard of the book Chaos Theory?
Yes.
And I don't necessarily subscribe to chaos theory, right? But one story that he told, which could just be applicable anywhere, was the whole idea of there was these two business partners who were going to the Twin Towers back in the day, right, for a meeting. And when they got on the plane, she gave him a gift, and it was a tie of the Starry Night, right, the Van Gogh painting, because she knew he liked those old ties.
I have that jacket hanging right over there.
Oh, awesome. I'll have to see that after this. But she gave him this tie, and they got there, and the only shirt he had to wear it with would have been like a green one. And she's like, that won't match. Go back to the hotel, iron the one you were wearing on the plane, put on that tie, and then you can come to the meeting. I'll go there to hold it down until you get there. Well, when he was back at the hotel, that's when the planes hit the World Trade Center.
Oh, wow.
And she ended up dying, and he ended up living. And so like the whole idea was that if she had never given him this tie and told him to go iron his shirt, he would probably be dead in the trade towers, right? And so what I do try to internalize that as is you can't ever know what would have happened if something happened differently. You could be upset that someone is taking 10 minutes longer because they're doing their hair in the bathroom, or like the baby is not getting their shoes on. But who knows what would have happened if you left 5 minutes prior? Maybe you could have been on that accident on the side of the road. Like, you never know what life looks like and why things happened exactly the way they did. The only person who does is God, right? And so the way I see it is, if you need another reason to be thankful, just know that you don't know what the alternate could have been, and that, and so it's like, that's just something that I guess I hold with me as knowing that you don't know, and you don't know what the alternate looks like. So just be thankful for whatever you've got in the moment, because we're alive, we're eating, we've got a roof over our head, we've got clothes on our backs, I've got loved ones and family, and it's like there's nothing, if nothing's broken and nothing's damaged, it's like
shalom.
Yeah, shalom, find peace,
So the couple of things that come to mind when you say that, and it'd be fun to try to make these kid stories. Schrodinger's cat.
Oh yeah, that would be a really good kid story.
Schrodinger's cat and Pavlov's dogs, and how do they get along with each other?
That would actually be awesome.
I think of the split particle theory, the split thoughts, and I also think of a new phrase that I'm still trying to get my head around, but theologically and scientifically, it has phenomenal merit that's in dramatic tension against each other. So on the one side, in the scientific world, time and space are measured by humans, but time and space are fictional.
Right.
Because in the quantum realm, there is no time and there is no space.
Right.
Which ironically matches better with the subconscious human mind, where the conscious cognitive mind looks at time and space as not only linear, but directive.
Right.
Retroactive causality is a psychological term that says we can use our subconscious mind to go back in time, because time is not relative. It is not real, it's relative.
Right.
We can go back in time and reimagine a future that hasn't yet existed, even though that future would be the past.
That's cool.
So Caroline Leaf talks about a time when her son went on a trip to Russia, on a college field trip, basically. Landed on the plane, got off the plane, he's in the square, and in the square, he and his entire group get jumped. And she said, he's on the phone with me, and I can hear him screaming in pain as they're beating him. And she said, we were terrified that he was going to have brain trauma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She said, the funny thing is, all that happened in a dream. But before that happened, he was actually jumped in the square.
Yeah.
And left for dead.
Yeah.
And never had a chance to call anybody. She said, so the dream was a prediction of, and so I prayed against the dream. And when the moment came,
he couldn't call. Or didn't
But
call.
he lived, and he was okay. She said he was beaten so bad he would have had a lifetime traumatic brain injury. but we prayed for his healing before it happened.
That's amazing.
And so God protected him.
That's amazing.
I'm like, okay, hang on. So was that before or after he got off the plane?
But that's such like what a great way to tell that story too. You know, just the differing layers, and like it's very Quentin Tarantino. You know, see the back, see the end first. You know, it's.
So I subscribe to a theory. Dale Carnegie calls it the magic formula. I've been teaching it. I coached Dale Carnegie for about 5 years, 2005 to 2010.
Wow.
And the magic formula basically says you're going to give me a report in 2 minutes of the thing that you lived through. So he's got the 33 principles, the golden rules. He says, and this is what we taught in the course. On this day, we're going to teach this particular principle. Always speak in the terms of the other person's interest, right? So this is your principle for the week. So when we see you back here next week, you're going to give me a 2-minute story of a time when you practiced speaking in the terms of the other person's interest and not your own. And you're going to start in the middle of the story, and then you're going to tell me your story for 2 minutes. So that's the formula.
Yeah.
I teach that in StoryPower today.
That's awesome.
That you've got to be able to get it down to 2 minutes because that's about all the attention span that you've got.
Yeah.
But beginning in the middle of the action, he taught this 130 years ago.
Yeah.
Today we call that a hook.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Russell Brunson says hook, story, offer.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins says you've got to have the state before the story or the strategy doesn't work. Myron Golden says you got to be before you can do, you got to do before you can have. So be, do, have. And when you stack all those together, story is right in the middle of all of those. And it's the story of what you've done. So I teach the 7 C's, and that's the credibility and the credential wrapped into the context, et cetera, et cetera. But all of that comes back to the story.
Yeah.
So when you can take that moment, give a hook that causes somebody to go, tell me more.
Yeah.
Or as Russell Brunson says, you got to have a hook that causes them to listen to the story. Otherwise, you don't have a right to tell the story.
Right. Yeah.
Which means you can't make an offer.
Yeah.
Right. But if you can do all that in 2 minutes' time, you can get their attention. You keep their attention. You tell them something. And I find even with kids, if you start in the beginning of the action and you tell a story that only lasts a couple of minutes, you can keep their attention the whole time. But you've got to speak in their language, and I think that's where most people fail.
Yeah.
They fail even in adult to adult because they don't speak in the terms of the other person's interest, meaning I don't translate calibrate to being a waitress.
Yeah.
I try to speak Portuguese to people in Spain.
Yeah.
And Spanish to people in Brazil when they speak Portuguese. And when you don't understand what their local vernacular, their common language, their way of seeing things, when you don't understand what those are, your ability to speak to them is gone.
Right. Like tactical communication. You know, you got to know what's just as a different term, you know, but it's like, I think that's the important thing. And actually something that you bring up that is funny for me when you say speak to kids in terms they can understand, because part of my desire with this book is I did throw a few big words in there, but I also explain it right afterward, right? It's like Sonny comes out and says something, like he'll say consternation. Right? A kid doesn't know what consternation is, but I explain it after
Most
that.
adults don't know what consternation is.
Well,
that's an 11th grade word. Most people read it on a 4th grade level. So. There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the StoryPower Academy Retreat. This StoryPower Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and relax. I encourage you to go to StoryPowerAcademy.com and check it out. Look at the different classes, the different levels, the different things that are available. You can take a lot of them a la carte. But spend some time there and see if that's the kind of thing that would change the way you communicate as a leader, as a pastor, as a counselor, as a political leader. And if that will help you, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Again, only 10 people in the elite speakers. You will have to apply for that. But if you're a candidate, I'd love to have that conversation with you. I'm Loren Norris with StoryPower Academy. I look forward to seeing you inside.
Hi. Hi, my name is Christina Knowles, and I just got done taking Jay Loren's StoryPower Masterclass. It was amazing. I took away so much information. One of the things that I really enjoyed being formally trained in media many, many years ago is the call to action. I will use that with every speaking engagement, and I'm so grateful that Loren just spoke truth into his teachings, and he is a true professional. And I know this might sound weird, but I've been taking certifications in different classes over the years, and Loren is not boring. I can't even believe I got here at 9, and then the class went by so fast that I was like, it's time to go already? And I was shocked that it was time to go already. So it's an awesome